So this is a topic that I've had in the tuck for a hot minute, and I couldn't think of a better time to explore it. From Gintoki, he says, I don't know if you've done it or if it'd be interesting, but what if Kiritsugu had the entire Emiya magic crest and then he passed it down to Shiro? This is a really good one, keep them coming. Something that many people don't even know is that in the story, Kiritsugu never had his whole magic crest. The novel straight up tells us that he only got a part of it, and the part that he did get was less than half. There was no actual values given, meaning there's no numbers involved, but less than half, we're talking roughly 40%. So he only had 40% of his actual magic crest, or less. And to take this a step further, it said that he only had the minor parts. The Mages Association took the parts that were most important. As you know, his foster mother, Natalia, did a negotiation and got as much as she could, and they ended up keeping the rest. This is huge for Kiritsugu because we already know that the ceiling for his magecraft was already high as it is. His father was said to be a genius, and the way that Kiritsugu uses his time manipulation isn't even its original purpose. It was meant for his father to get to the root. Time Alter itself was something specifically Kiritsugu made up on his own, tailored just for him. So with all of that in mind, I figured it'd be a good idea to highlight two events, one of which being from Strange Fate. This was the summoning of Thea Escardos. And if you don't know, Thea is an entity that was born from the corpse of Flat Escardos. And this is something that gets addressed way later in the story of Strange Fate. That's a whole nother topic, and we'll get to that later. But upon Thea's summoning, one of the many things that he's capable of is time manipulation. And it stretches way further than that of which we've seen from Kiritsugu. And that's why I bring it up. It gives light to a potential level of Kiritsugu that we may have missed out on. And I want to dive into Thea's kit. He has this at rank A, and it tells us he can freely speed up or slow down any concepts, including all magical energy, physical movement, thought speed, the list goes on, within his area of effect for as long as he has the magical energy for it. However, the increase or decrease of the speed stops at reasonable levels, meaning it's naturally impossible for him to produce things like perfect stasis, light speed, or time reversal. So by the logic of his own character, it's not even unrealistic. It does have limitations. Once Thea comes out, he goes straight for Flat's assailants, the people that took him out, and he starts to torture them. He can use telepathy to communicate with them through his mind. That's another addition that he has to this. He can put them in this sort of mental genjutsu and manipulate the time within that realm because that's still his domain. So not only are these people dying, but they continue to die mentally over and over again. And he can perpetuate this for as long as he has the reserves. He's manipulating speed to match against Enkidu because they fought against each other. And Enkidu tried to make this huge magical gun out of his Age of Babylon, and you had Theo warp his own blast to neutralize it. So that's him playing with the manipulation of magical energy. He can accelerate his thoughts to learn things. He made a pair of black wings just by accelerating the learning process and instantly acquiring the knowledge to do so. It's absurd. And this is just a fragment of his kit. But I say that to say all of these things are things that could have been available to, say, Kiritsugu in his servant form if he had the full crest. Now, I will say that the Escardos are working with 2 millenniums worth of background in its entirety, not in time manipulation specifically, but just magecraft in general. So they have a lot under their belt, and this is just one of many. How long did it take to acquire this portion specifically? We'll never know, but just looking at how much much progress Norikata made, Kiritsugu's father, it's not that far off. And this is just one example. And I know people are like, oh, there's no way, that's a stretch, because here's the second example. El Malloy Case Files, the main antagonist, Dr. Heartless. One of the main things that he tried to do in the story was to turn his servant into a divine spirit. He did this by using the spiritual tomb of Albion that's under the clock tower as a base for energy, as a resource. And guess whose information he took? He took the same foundations left behind by Norikata and used that to accelerate his servant Saint Graph into a divine spirit that was based on Iskander. This was Faker. He hyper accelerated the time that it would take to become an actual deity through manipulation. So those years and years worth of worship that it would normally take was reduced to right now. And they achieved divine status in a short amount of time. He had Norikata's eyes, his brains, his nervous system, his magic circuits, all of these things to tap into his magic crest and pull this off. And it worked. So it's not even a matter of if Kiritsugu can do these things. He literally can, given the resources. And it's a literal plot point in Case Files to show us this. Now, going off of the story itself, Kiritsugu would never pursue these things because he doesn't actually care about magecraft. It's a tool to him. The story has said this outright, but it's just cool to think about how much potential has been lost with his character when he really could be one of the best out there servant wise. There's not that many people that get into the time manipulation field. It's not applicable. For one, it's hard. The effort to output ratio isn't worth it. Even if you were to make a significant discovery in this field, it's hard to contain. I mean, it is space and time that we're talking about here. The moment the association catches wind of it, you're God, just like his father. And any result worth getting would probably take your life anyway, which is why Avalon was such a huge deal for Kiritsugu. But maybe we get this altered form of him where he continued the research and he had somebody support him with the magical energy, whether that be an actual person or mystic code itself, to make up the difference and find a way to offset the internal damage, if there is any. That would really be something to see. And it's been a pretty long time since we've had a lore drop for his character. He needs it. It's almost the same circumstance as Emiya Alter, but not that bad. And at least with Emiya Alter, I complained about it, and then they came back around and they at least did something. So maybe if I complain about Kiritsugu, they'll do something for his character too. Fingers crossed. I mean, this dude is a whole counter guardian. Counter guardians in their own right should have their own exclusive chapter strictly covering them. And we've yet to really get into those. There's so much you could do with his character.